Urban Meyer says no comment when asked about report he would retire after 2019 season. It's been quite the season for Ohio State and head coach. First there was the entire saga surrounding assistant and what, and when, that dominated headlines during the summer. That led to an eventual 3-game suspension and rumors that interim coach/offensive coordinator with the school after a good start to the season. Then, after numerous inquiries, Meyer revealed after the Buckeyes game against Indiana that he has to treat it just a few years ago. Naturally, those health issues prompted plenty of speculation that Meyer could be on his last legs in Columbus and, well, despite saying, very carefully, that he intends to, Meyer is not exactly putting out fires when it comes to his future with the program beyond next year. A report on Meyer had informed athletic director that he would not be coaching the Buckeyes beyond the 2019 season and that he would address his future after the team's Big Ten title game on Saturday night. Speaking a press conference on the day before the game in Indianapolis though, Meyer gave a quick no comment when asked about said report and refused to go into any details beyond the game itself. While other head coaches certainly would have seized upon the opportunity to deny a report like that, something Meyer did quite a bit this past summer, it's a bit interesting that he chose to simply no comment his way out of the situation. As a result, the post-game scene at Lucas Oil Stadium tomorrow night and any press conferences leading up to Ohio State's bowl game may very well become must-see TV given the potential for Meyer to address his long-term future at the school. Cal may be heading in a positive direction and they may have beaten Washington and USC this season, but getting over the Stanford hurdle is still too tough a task for the Golden Bears at this time. Stanford once again topped Cal in the big game, winning this year's delayed edition of the game by a score of 23-13. Stanford nearly shut out Cal in the second half and closed out the game with 10 points in the fourth quarter. Cal scored a late touchdown with the game essentially decided in every facet except for the final score with 10 seconds remaining. Perhaps playing in his final game for Stanford, carried the football 22 times for 74 yards. Cameron Scarlett scored a touchdown on the ground in the fourth quarter, and quarterback completed 18 of 29 passes for 237 yards and a touchdown. Led all players with 109 receiving yards on 5 receptions. Turnovers were crucial in the game, with Cal turning the football over 3 times to just 1 turnover by Stanford. Stanford's current 9-game winning streak in the rivalry remains the longest winning streak for either team in the series. Cal's last win came in 2009 with a team that included topped a Cardinal team with and was the head coach of the Cardinal. Harbaugh and luck would get the Stanford winning streak against Cal started up the next season, and has continued to keep Stanford on top of the classic rivalry. Shaw is 8-0 in the series. Both Stanford and Cal should be heading to the postseason to play in a bowl game, so the season is not over yet for either program. Stanford and Cal could land in a number of different bowl games including the Sun Bowl, Las Vegas Bowl and Cheez-It Bowl as the most likely destinations from which to choose. Not surprisingly, Appalachian State likely won't have long to enjoy its latest on-field success thanks to lingering off-field speculation. Saturday afternoon, Scott Satterfield and his App State Mountaineers got past Louisiana to the first-ever Sun Belt Conference championship game. In fact, after just 5 years at the FBS level, App State has now won or shared 3 straight conference titles. Even before today's win, Satterfield was mentioned as a potential candidate to fill the Louisville opening. After, Satterfield appears to be the odds-on favorite for a job that at one time was thought ticketed for, who announced earlier in the week that he would be. From S&, in the days leading up to Saturday's title game, Satterfield acknowledged that he'd listen if Louisville came calling. "I think I owe it to myself and my family to take a look," Satterfield said Friday according to the. "And I've always said I'll listen. I'll listen to see what people have to say. And if there is interest on their part, we'll see where it's at. If it's going to benefit our family and is a situation we feel like we can have success, then that's something we'll take serious. And if not, we'll move on and continue to build a powerhouse here at Appalachian State." It's believed that Troyes is in the mix for the job with the Cardinals as well. As for Satterfield, he's in the midst of his 6th season guiding the Mountaineers. After going 4-8 his first season in Boone, he's won 10 or more games in 3 of the last 5 seasons, the other 2, he won 9, 2017, and 7, 2014. App State has also won 3 straight bowl games under Satterfield. Overall, Satterfield is 51-24 overall and 34-6 in SBC play. It labeled a heavyweight title fight, round 2, down in Atlanta between number 4 Georgia and number 1 Alabama, and that's just what we got heading into halftime as the Bulldogs are up 21-14 and certainly eyeing a bit of revenge in this year's SEC championship game. Leading the way for the East champs was quarterback, who was simply dealing against the Tide defense and was already up to 14 of 17 passes for 139 yards and a pair of touchdowns after the first 2 quarters. His pinpoint passing helped sustain several lengthy drives and started to open things up on the ground for the big fellas in the backfield. Was his usual productive self in hitting the edge with 64 yards rushing and a score, while teammate was responsible for 29 yards between the tackles against that stout front seven. Alabama's offense, meanwhile, was a little off in their biggest game to date. Finished the half with just 35 yards and slightly injured his ankle on a sack that occurred one play prior to him throwing a red zone interception. Despite a long run back on the turnover by the Tide defense picked up their teammates by forcing a punt and Tagovailoa eventually returned to action. Tailback was the workhorse on the ground with 77 yards and a pair of touchdowns, the latter of which came as the clock was winding down in the second quarter that saw him recover his own fumble in the end zone. His effort was a big part of the offense getting anything going at all given a big number of drops from the wide receivers. It makes for a fascinating final 2 quarters with at least one berth in the college football playoff on the line. Georgia led in these teams' last meeting at Mercedes-Benz Stadium 11 months ago, and the fans in red and black are hoping for a very different kind of ending this time around. Memphis running back has shredded number 8 UCF's defense, and the Tigers hold a 38-21 lead over the Knights halfway through the American Championship. Henderson powered for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns on 10 carries in the half, leading a Tigers attack that totaled 336 yards and 4 scores on just 26 first-half carries. He staked the Tigers to a 14-0 first-quarter lead, charging for touchdowns of 62 and 12 yards. After got UCF on the board with a 14-yard touchdown run of his own, Memphis answered with another long touchdown run, this one a 70-yarder by. Playing for the injured, UCF quarterback completed 12 of his 18 passes for 193 yards and a touchdown in the half, but also ended 2 of the Knights' first 3 drives with fumbles. His first led to Henderson's second touchdown, and his second handed Memphis the ball at midfield, leading to a 36-yard field goal, giving Memphis a 24-7 lead after 1 quarter. Mack again fumbled on UCF's next drive, but this one was in the end zone and recovered for a touchdown, putting the Knights within 10, though not for long. Henderson again broke off for a long touchdown run, this one from 82 yards out. UCF had a great chance to pull back within 10 midway through the second quarter, but McCray's 4th and 2 run from the Memphis 20 was stopped for no gain. Memphis quickly moved back into Knights territory, keyed by a 21-yard Henderson run, but the drive stalled. UCF took over at its own 6 with 3:39 before halftime, but Mack immediately hit for a 44-yard gain to put the ball at midfield. UCF was originally flagged for a chop block, but the flag was picked up, even though replays showed the chop block call should have stood. Either way, McCray busted off a 47-yard run on the next snap. Mack cut the deficit to 31-21 on a 4-yard pass with 2:41 left in the first half. The Knights forced a second straight punt with just under 2 minutes remaining, giving UCF a chance to pull within 31-28 at the break, knowing they'd get the ball to open the second half, but fumbled the punt, handing Memphis the ball at the UCF 31. Memphis capitalized on UCF's third fumble for a third time with another Henderson touchdown, this one a 4-yard pass with 21 seconds left in the first half. The score gave Memphis 17 points off of UCF's 3 fumbles and, not coincidentally, a 17-point lead.